gonna be good.
Auf der Suche nach meiner mir unbekannten Herkunft haben sich Ereignisse ergeben, die bewusst nicht gewollt waren. Diese schicksalhaften Ereignisse haben eine Geschichte geformt, die nicht nur mich betrifft, sondern ein ganzes Volk. Wir tauchen ein in die ungeschriebene Geschichte eines vergessenen Volkes. Ein Volk, das einst zahlreich war, in Frieden und Freiheit lebte, in Einklang mit der Natur. Ein Volk, von dem nur noch wenige übrig geblieben sind. Einer davon bin ich. Die Steigerung von Völkermord ist Ausrottung. Der Wunsch nach Heimat und Zugehörigkeit ist in allen von uns tief verankert. Sicherheit und Geborgenheit geben uns das Gefühl, zu Hause zu sein. Der Wunsch nach Hause zu kommen, der Wunsch nach Zugehörigkeit, diese Hoffnung hat mich motiviert. Meine Geschichte hat sich unfreiwillig verzögert. Verwirrungen, Missverständnisse, Täuschungen, verbunden mit großen Spannungen, machen diese Geschichte daher so einzigartig. Doch meine Erlebnisse sind Erlebnisse, die uns alle betreffen. Unser aller Leben ist durchströmt von Ereignissen, die bewusst nicht gewollt sind. Durchströmt von Missverständnissen, Täuschungen, Verwirrungen. Und in ruhigen Stunden fernab vom Getriebe des Alltags stellen wir uns manchmal die Frage nach dem Sinn unseres Lebens. Manchmal taucht in solchen ruhigen Stunden tief aus unserem Bewusstsein die Frage auf: Wer bin ich? Doch so plötzlich wie sie kommt, wird sie wieder verdrängt. Der Ruf des Alltags will Gehör. Als ich nach einer schweren Krise anfing, mir diese Frage zu stellen, ahnte ich nicht, welche Konsequenzen dies haben würde. Hinzu kam, dass die Frage nach meiner Herkunft, nach meiner Identität dadurch erschwert wurde, dass mein Vater mir unbekannt und auf einem anderen Kontinent zu Hause war. Ich hatte lediglich ein Stück Papier auf dem der Name stand Mike Belt Rayner, Salinas Fontes Lane. Was sich hinter diesen Namen verbarg, konnte ich nicht erahnen, geschweige denn mir vorstellen, was für Konsequenzen sein Überleben kämpft. Ein Volk, welches seine Identität, sein Land, seine Sprache, seine Kultur fast verloren hat. Ahnungslos bin ich in eine Situation geraten, die hätte schlimmer nicht sein können. War es Schicksal oder Bestimmung? Ich weiß es nicht. Ich werde mit einer Kultur konfrontiert, die mir völlig fremd war und doch irgendwo in meinem Innern vertraut. Eine unbekannte Welt, in der Spiritualität, Rituale, Gesänge und Tänze den Alltag bestimmen. Mit dieser Dokumentation möchte ich Sie mitnehmen in diese unbekannte Welt, in die Welt der Chiricahua Apachen, dessen berühmtester Vertreter Geronimo war, mein Urgroßvater. Die Schwitzhütte erinnert uns an unsere kosmische Herkunft. Sie erinnert uns daran, dass wir von den Sternen kommen und wir wieder dahin zurückkehren. Wir sind Gäste auf der Erde. Bei allen wichtigen Entscheidungen, Konflikten und Unternehmungen werden die Ahnen angerufen und um Unterstützung gebeten. Dafür dient die Schwitzhütte.
You sit there in here for 2 or 3 hours. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we put new. In this one, this small one, if I keep it covered, put the tarp and cover it, the ground stays soft, but this one never stays soft.
Yeah, okay.
So we just move it to a new floor. If you look at this, right, that's a birth canal, and that's the womb.
Oh,
You see? There's the canal and then the womb.
okay.
And so, and to have birth, you
Yeah.
need friction.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
you have
Yeah,
5
I
kids.
know that.
You need, you have the friction. So you have
5
the
times.
man, so the man brings the wood in.
Okay.
So it causes the friction to build up, and then you light the match.
Yeah.
And so what happens is birth.
Yeah.
And fire, see, fire to us is alive.
Yes.
It's a
Uh-huh.
real person,
Okay.
and it has to be born.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't just appear.
Yeah.
So the man and the woman
Yeah.
come together to have fire be born.
Mhm.
And we talk to what we call our sister. We talk to what we call our sister, the wind, for her to come
Yeah.
and blow in here so the fire can come up.
Okay.
So it's all, everybody, we all have to work together.
Mhm.
Our, me, and sister, and our mother work together to make the fire happen. Nelson, he actually does all of this for me now.
Okay, he's the fireman.
He's the fireman, yes. And everybody in our way, no matter where you go, everybody starts here.
Okay.
I did this for years,
Uh-huh.
and it's still my favorite thing.
Yes.
I really do. Yeah, I mean, I pour water, as we say, and I sit in here because that's the position I've reached,
Okay.
and that's what the family does.
Mhm.
But and I love that, I really
Mhm,
do. But for me,
Mhm.
my own personal,
Mhm.
I love the fire. I
Okay.
really love
Uh-huh.
the fire. And the other thing with the fire is that you don't have to worry about anybody else.
Mhm.
So when you sit in here in the lodge and you pour water, intercede with the intercessor, you're responsible for everybody in there.
Okay.
You know, how they breathe, are they comfortable, are they okay?
Yeah.
When you're out here,
Yes.
it's you and the fire.
I'm the fire.
That's it. And if you pay attention, it never hurts you.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
And first thing you have to remember is that it is hot.
Mhm.
Very, very hot.
Mhm.
And you have to go in there.
Wow.
You'll see.
Die Schwitzhütte bei Harold war eine Art Einbindung in die spirituelle Welt meiner Ahnen, die mir in der Schwitzhütte begegnet sind. Sie geben mir die Kraft und die Sicherheit für meine weiteren Wege. Ich weiß nicht, wie es funktionierte, aber ich kann sagen, dass es funktionierte. Die Schwitzhütte dauerte über 5 Stunden. Was ich erlebt habe, will ich in meinem Herzen behalten. Wenn unsere Ahnen durch Gesänge gerufen werden, sprechen sie zu uns in Bildern und Symbolen, manchmal auch in Worten, direkt zu unseren Medizinmännern. Sie zeigen uns Wege, die wir gehen können, aber nicht müssen. Die letzte Entscheidung liegt immer bei uns selbst. Freddy ist eine Art Mentor für mich. Er führt mich ein in die Geschichte der Chiricahua, führt mich zu den historischen Plätzen und stellt mich den Menschen vor. Gleichzeitig lehrt er mich Apache-Gesänge.
My name is Freddie Catazini. I'm a descendant of Catazini and Taistenjush. To tell you a little of my background, my father's name was William Catazini. His father's name was Nelson Catazini, who was the son of Taistenjus and Kerazini. Taistenjus is the daughter of Cochise. She was half-sister to Naichi and Taza. My grandfather also had land right here in Whitetail. When I was very young, supposedly he gave that to one of his nieces, and she in turn handed it down to some of the family. So I really don't know who has it right now, but I myself, I have a land assignment close to Mescalero, a place called Apache Summit, where Chato used to live. Chato was married to Apache Shtleh. Her given name by the military was Helen Chato, and she's the one that raised my mother. And that particular assignment over there, it was given to my mother, and then in turn my mother gave it to me. It would have been good if I still had an assignment right here in Whitetail. I would probably move out here and enjoy some of the good land that's out here and the wildlife, but unfortunately that never transpired. I myself right now, I live in the Mescalero community, and it's right there in town, so that's where I live now. They were given in 1913 when they were released from Fort Sill, Oklahoma. The Mescaleros gave them this particular home site here, and I really don't know how many acres it consists of, but there's a lot of land out here, and many of the Chiricahuas lived in this particular area, and it's a beautiful area. It consists of ponderosa pine, mountainous terrain, and a lot of good hunting in this area. And later on, throughout the years, as the town Mescalero began to grow, a lot of our people moved out of here, and they moved into the Mescalero district. And so the school for the Apache people is located in Mescalero. The stores, the post offices, the community center, all the modern things that you see that are offered to the outside world is there in Mescalero also, and that's where most of our people move to. So it's a little more convenient. Of course, some of our students are still being bused from this area to attend the schools in Ruidoso. So we still have a few families that live right here.
Hi, Andrea.
Wow, hello.
I heard you are into La Rosa. You are home now, huh?
I'm home.
You are home. I'm
It's
also
so
home.
good to see you. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
I'm home like you, yeah?
Yeah, I know.
find home.
In either the late 1300s
or early 1400s. The Apaches came down from the Arctic Circle to, they migrated down. No one knows why. But according to Cochise, his own testimony, the medicine people told the Apaches where to stop. God told the medicine people where to stop. And they stopped in what is now southern Arizona and northern Mexico. At the time, 1300, 1400, there were about 21 tribes living in that same area. The Apaches were the latest arrivals. And being very smart, they knew they had to step back, take a deep breath, and make friends with the 21 different tribes, which they did. That was fine. That was fine. The next bunch who came to that area, geographical area, were the Spaniards. By that time, the Apaches had made friends with the other tribes, except in times of drought. When there was drought, there was warfare because they all needed the water, they all needed the food, they all needed the medicines in the earth, and there was no water. So they fought, but once the water came, they got back together with all the other tribes. When the Spaniards came, it was a whole different ballgame. The Apaches initially were very friendly to the Spaniards. Very, very friendly. They and the other tribes showed the Spaniards the land, the medicines, where the game was, everything. Shortly after the expeditions, the religious people came. Mainly the Jesuits. Initially the Jesuits. Okay, they came up. And through an interpreter, they said to the Apache people, in essence, and I'm just giving you some dialogue that I think probably occurred. They said, tell me about your worship. Where do you worship? Take me to your sacred sites. Well, for an Apache, a sacred site was where the junction of the visible and invisible worlds intersected. In other words, there's a boulder out in a field, and the Apache man would go there and pray, and his God would answer him out there. From that moment on, that boulder was his family's sacred site. So his children went there, his wife, his sisters, his brothers, his in-laws, everybody went out there to pray. And everybody else knew that rock is where this family prays. And so other families would have other sites. They didn't infringe on this at all. Okay. When the Jesuits came and the Jesuits found out that this family worshipped at that site, they put a fence up. And they told the family, you go there and we'll kill you. The soldiers will come and kill you. Inside that fence, they began to build a mission. A mission. Not only for that family, but for everybody else. And they began to round up the Apaches when the mission was built, put the Apaches inside the wall. In other words, they desecrated the Apache worship site. They desecrated it. And to an Apache of old, and we're talking now about a pre-literate mind, to the uneducated mind, to the Apache of old, the only person who would dare do that to a sacred site was a witch. Only witches. Now, to the Apache, they were familiar with witches. Very familiar. What do they do with a witch? They kill them. And warfare began. Warfare began. Of course, the Apaches would attack, they would raid the mission, they would steal the livestock, but they still did not fire a shot. They had bows and arrows. And the soldiers who came up with the missionaries had guns. So the Apaches didn't, it is believed, they didn't fire the first shot. They raided. And so they raid the corral and they steal the horses or they steal the cows. And a soldier whose job it is, and it was his job, he had to guard. So he shot. So the next time the Apaches raided, they wanted the guns. Stole the guns. Fired back. And it's just like you ratchet it up 100%.
This is our homeland, and we're going to hold on to this particular homeland as long as we can. And you know the history. Our Apache people went through hard times, and we lost a lot of land. And at one time, the original land base of the Apache people started from south central New Mexico all the way into the Gulf of Mexico, and all the way into northern Mexico and Arizona.
There was a system of that the Spaniards had of labeling. They labeled the Apaches. There were Apaches who were compliant, who could work very nicely with them. There were some who were not threats, but they resisted, and the Spaniards tolerated that. And then there were the bad guys, the really, really bad guys who, under no circumstances, would they agree. They were the troublemakers, they were the resistors, they would escape from the mission and go back to their camp, round up everybody, and come and raid the mission. You know, those were the guys. If the Spaniards absolutely could not handle an Apache, and don't forget, geographically, we're still in southern Arizona and northern Mexico, they would deport this Apache and all of his colleagues. They would march them from that area, usually northern Mexico, to Veracruz, Mexico, put them on a boat and send them to Cuba.
Siggy.
Siggy.
Siggy is the next one.
Yeah. And they would send them to Cuba.
Die Geschichte von Siggy ist ähnlich wie die meine. Es gibt viele solcher Geschichten. Sie zeigen die Zerstreuung der Chiricahua in alle Richtungen. Dieses Volk erlebt eine Diaspora. Zur damaligen Zeit war es lebensgefährlich, als Apache erkannt zu werden. Der Hass auf dieses Volk war durch die Presse so hochgefahren, dass nur eines half: unsichtbar werden.
Yeah, my name is Siggy Second Jumper. I am the great-grandson of Jose Second. Jose Second was a Chiricahua who was captured as a young boy, by Mexicans, along with another Chiricahua. They were named Jose Primero and Jose Segundo. Those two Chiricahuas made their way back as adults to their bands, probably to the Dragoon Mountains under Cochise. They were named Jose First and Jose Second when they got to that area of St. Carlos and the Dragoons. Jose Second and Jose First fought along with Naiche on the 1884 outbreak, and they both surrendered with Chief Chihuahua at Cañón de los Embudos. They both were taken to Florida as prisoners. Jose Second was taken with his wife and children, and his wife's name is believed to be Juana, a Warm Springs Apache. When they arrived in the fort, you must understand the conditions of the fort at the time. It was owned by Spaniards, and Cuba was also owned by Spaniards. Anyone that spoke Spanish was an asset to be brought almost into slavery. This was already common, as a lot of Apaches had already been taken to Cuba in prior years. So those children that spoke Spanish, and I cannot speak for all of them, but I can speak for my family, they were taken to Cuba.
What that entailed was breaking up families. Now here's the thing with the Apache males. They were their breadwinners. They did what they had to do to give their families food, shelter, to keep the families inside the mission or outside the mission. If the male was removed from the family had no one to look after them, unless it was the husband's brother or something, some family member came in. But it disrupted the entire family.
My great-grandparents were named Florentino and Cuca, and they were made into rope makers. They ended up marrying, and my grandmother, Francisca Segunda, which is second, was born, and she married a Spaniard. And my mother was born, and they, upon the death of my grandmother, they migrated to Florida. And my early upbringings were done by the Seminoles. I joined them in their drums as a singer and as a traditional dancer. I traveled the country with them. And in 1995, I was inspired by them to start searching for my real family. Although they had taken me in, they wanted me to find my real family. And I started doing some heavy-duty search, and I started finding out where my family was from. And the places that they came up was Sierra Madre and Cañada Alamosa. So I set out on a journey with my family to find anything or anyone related to me. And first, we went to the fort in St. Augustine, Florida. And they had very little information there. So we headed out west. We went to St. Carlos. And I couldn't find a lot of people that wanted to help me there. I continued my journey all across the Southwest to Fort Bowie. I thought that Fort Bowie was a community. I found that it was completely a vacant land. So we continued on east to Deming, and there were no Apaches living there. So on my way up to Truth or Consequences, to Cañada Alamosa, I saw a sign that says Geronimo Springs Museum. And I said, well, someone there must know something. I stopped there and found a gentleman by the name of Jack Wood, who gave me directions how to get to the springs, Ojo Caliente Springs. When I got to Ojo Caliente Springs, I realized that without Jack Wood's help, I would never had found the place. So I called him when I got back to Florida, and I said, thank you for helping me out. So we became friends at that moment, and we continued talking. A year later, he says to me, you know, your family story I've been sharing with someone who I have not told you about. He is my roommate. He is Carlos Anjardi, and he's a Chiricahua, and he's been talking to his family, and they would like to meet you. They feel that you are real, and if you are, they want you to come and meet them. So I came in 1999. I came to meet his grandmother, Catherine Canoy, and the family. And her words to me when I met her were, oh my gosh, you are one of those, the lost ones. And her father, Sam Canoy, had told stories of seeing the ships full of kids and families leaving the fort, but he thought they were going to be thrown overboard to be drowned. But what he didn't know is that they were sailing out to Cuba. So when she heard my story, it all made sense. And she became very dear to me, almost like my family. The following year, I was taken to meet the rest of the Chiricahuas. And at that moment, I was taking the Chiricahua camp, where I was interviewed by all the elders. And I began to reveal my story, and when it was all over, I ended up inside the Chiricahua crown dancer's teepee as a singer. And I walked out to the feast grounds with a drum in my hand, and I have been singing for them for the last 11 years. A few years later, a dear friend that has been very helpful, almost like I was helpful to Henry, was Carson Carrillo. And he was the one that greeted me from the very beginning. And he says, come to the gas station. He was working at the general gas station here in Mescalero. And a gentleman came to meet me. His name is Windy Running Water. And Carson says, Siggy, why don't you tell him your story? Why don't you tell him your family story? And I did. And he says, well, I want you to know that we are related. And that was the first time that I really felt that someone was really related to me. Although Catherine Canoy made me feel like that, it wasn't the same thing. So this was real. And he says to me, well, do you know where Second Canyon is? And I says, I'm sorry, I don't even know where First Canyon is. So he starts laughing. He says, no, Second Canyon is named after your great-grandfather. So he says, there's a lady up there. Her name is Lorraine Evans. And she was Lorraine second by birth. He says, she is your family, and she is waiting to meet you. She has been waiting for a long time. So the next day, Carson took me to meet him, and I met my whole family. And that was an important moment, because I didn't know if I was going to be accepted or not. And I was, and it was a good feeling. I have been part of that family ever since. It's great to feel welcome and be part of something. And I continued doing that. And then I learned about Henry, and I felt that I could help him, because a lot of the Chiricahuas living here helped me. So I felt that that's the least I could do.
Schön. Jetzt wird es schwierig, was rauszufinden, sage ich euch. So ein verschwiegenes Volk hast du noch nie erlebt. Wie die Apachen. Vielleicht hätten sie die umgebracht, weil sie sonst entdeckt wären und nicht mehr in Ruhe leben können, weißt du? Gutes Zeichen, Boys. Sie sehen die Feder, das ist eine Erkennung, ey. Guckst du, ne? Schau, die verstecken sich schon, der Henry ist wieder da. Der Kleinkopf. Far away from Ballenberg. Die, wenn sie den Führerschein machen, auch immer. kommst in dieses Dorf und du denkst, da sollen Apachen leben. Da hast du einen Knall, oder?
Der erste ist doch schon da.
3 andere sind tot.
Wenn das Fleisch in der Hitze. Überall der Jesus. Wahnsinn.
Das ist völlig erobert. Jetzt kommt der Platz Blasse. Da war ich immer. Da hat der Reifen gewechselt. Da hat er gelebt, da habe ich mein Mahl bekommen. Mein Gastmahl. Ein Hühnchen gekocht. Hühnersuppe. Oh je, sein Auto steht auch noch da. Das wollte er für mich herrichten, wenn ich das nächste Mal komme.
Oh Gott, das schaut Schnitzel. Ein Passator, oder wie heißt denn der mit dem Igel drauf?
Uraltes Ding.
Ja.
Dirección, tiene fax 9:10 de la mañana.
9:10. Más o menos.
Sí, esa es palabra mexicana. Más o menos.
Más o menos.
Americano dice no más o menos. Bueno.
Bueno.
Malo o bueno. No más o menos.
Hast du das gelesen da? Marciana, de la Cruz, Martinez. Oh, ich kann mal schlecht lesen.
Maybe Elba murió en maybe abril, mayo, junio, julio, 3 meses, maybe. Diego maybe no abril, como mayo.
El gitano.
Gitano, maybe 2 meses, maybe mayo.
Mit unserer Zeremonie ehren wir unsere Ahnen, ohne die wir nicht hier auf Erden wären. Das war das Heim von Elba und Diego. Die Menschen sind alle freundlich und großzügig. Sie erzählen mir die Geschichte meiner Vorfahren. Außerhalb der Stadt leben die Indianer. Das ist der Platz, an dem mein Onkel lebte. Jesus de Perez ist der Historiker und erzählt mir die Geschichte meiner Urgroßmutter. Sie muss eine faszinierende Frau gewesen sein, kämpfte mit Pancho Villa und war mit Gold behängt, als sie in dieses Dorf kam.
Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Hashuga he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Hashuga he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Ashoka hi Babishua Shah Babishua Shue Ashoka he Babishua Shuya he he Shikayo Shikayo
Frag ich mal, wie er heißt? Wegen dem Namen. Tu nombre es?
Francisco.
Francisco Díaz.
Real
Weiter? Francisco Díaz.
Zapata.
Zapata. Wir wollen in den Garten Francesco.
Díaz.
Jardin. Jardin. Du verstehst? Jardin.
No. Diego. Elba.
Naja, ist dort. Muerto.
Ah. Rafa.
Können wir, das hat er nicht verstanden mit dem Garten. Jardin, das Wort kennt er nicht.
Atrás.
Ahí. ¿Quieres?
¿Van a entrar?
Entrar, ja.
Sí.
Komm.
Deja.
Das ist alles der Fall, oder? Ich habe die Frage. Also das war so schön, da wo du rot da war. Ja, das ist die Frage. Was? Hier in diesem Brunnen habe ich jetzt die Einweihung oder erstmals die Information bekommen, dass wir Apachen sehen. Mit Gitano zusammen und Diego und Elba. Ganz geheim. Verborgen.
Als mein Vater mir nach 3 Jahren den Namen des Dorfes in Mexiko nannte, wo meine Vorfahren begraben sind, machte ich mich sofort auf die Reise nach Mexiko.
Das ist die Elba.
Hier fand ich noch 3 Überlebende meiner Familie. Alle anderen waren irgendwo in Mexiko zerstreut.
Wo ist das?
Ihre Namen waren Diego, Elba und El Chitano.
Das?
Von nun an waren sie meine Begleiter. Von ihnen wurde ich in die Geschichte meiner Familie eingeweiht. Dies war sehr schwierig, da ich kein Wort Spanisch konnte. Ich ließ sie daher auf mein Sony Recorder sprechen und wie sich später zeigen sollte, war dies eine kluge Entscheidung.
Hier ist links ist die Elba und rechts die Diego.
Sí.
Die waren verbunden. Die waren eins. Also da wo jetzt der Erdhaufen liegt, wollte mir Gitano ein Haus bauen. Er hat gemeint, ich soll hier bleiben und soll hier wohnen, weil ich bin ja hier bekannt in dem Land, in der Stadt. Ja, da dran.
Da?
Da hat er gemeint.
Das ist nicht dein Ernst, oder?
Doch, da hätte ich ein Haus bauen
Mit der
können.
Tasche, da.
Muss dir vorstellen, ein
Ja,
Klo für,
hat er da gewohnt, oder was?
ja, da hat er gewohnt. Ein Klo für 40 Leute. Und die wohnen alle in der Hütte da drin. Wie die Indianer. Original-Indianer.
Das ist süß. Das ist ja süße für die Claudia. Da haben wir schon 44 Kinder, da haben wir in 2 Tagen.
Buenas tardes.
Wahnsinn. Und wieso hat ihr da Hausbauer wollen, Henry?
Weil er hier gelebt hat. Der hat hier gelebt.
Ach, der hat gewollt, dass du da runterziehst.
Ja, der hat gewollt, dass ich da herziehe.
Und was machen?
Hat nix. Der hat gedacht, was weiß ich, hab keine Ahnung. Ja, hermano de Chitano es mi tío.
Ah, pues aquí vivía él. Aquí,
Ja,
Aquí.
aquí, viven aquí, ja?
sí.
Viven aquí.
Pásale,
Ja, Basili, komm.
véngase por acá. Sí, aquí.
Da habe ich gelebt.
Ja, jetzt kommen wir wieder.
Indio. Hi. You remember? Yeah. How are you?
Henry?
Yeah.
Sí.
Henry hat gesagt, sehr gut. Gitano es muerto.
Gitano muerto. Sí.
Enferma.
Enfermo
Elba.
ya. Sí.
Elba. Die gefällt mir da nicht. Das ist ein Typ, weißt du.
Hallo, Robert.
Gitano hat hier gelebt, weißt du? Hier habe ich gelebt.
Sí.
Und du? Elba con comida. ¿Eh?
Sí.
No intoxicación.
No.
No, así.
Sí es. Ella también me dijo.
¿Ya?
El sobrino de gitano.
Sobrino
Sí.
gitano, ¿ya?
Sí es él. Sí pasaron para allá, pero pues.
Hi, hallo.
Hallo, Robert. Oder Roberto.
Wie, Película,
Sí.
película, Dokumentari.
Man gerade ich bin der Verwandte. Das schaut man da hin.
Ja? Hollywood. Und du auch, okay?
Mira, aquí se van
Okay.
ahorita.
Das ist eine starke Frau, weißt du? Mucho forza.
Ícaro, vamos a ver la película, maletilla.
Él es indígena. Zeig mal dein Vater. Es padre, es mexicano aquí. Yaqui. Indígena mexicano.
Ajá.
Schaut aus wie sie. Könnte die Schwester sein von meinem Vater. Same look, I think. Ja.
Aber sie weiß ihren Stamm zum Beispiel nicht.
Ja, voll, Alter.
Nombre de tu tribu.
Gibt's ja gar nicht.
Tu
Mi nombre.
nombre de tribu.
Es la familia. Familia.
De la tribu. El nombre de
De los de nosotros.
Sí, pero de ella.
No, de nosotros.
no eran apellidos.
Du antepasadas aquí.
Sí.
Ah, que
Die Urfahren kommen von hier. Aquí.
Y ya fueron al panteón.
¿Dónde está gitano? No. Allá donde está gitano, no.
Gitano de Oklahoma. Also,
Sí.
doch, visitar la
Sí.
tumba,
Allá fue a visitar. Ah, ya fue.
la tumba, ceremony. Gitano es Apache.
Sí.
Son Marciana, Rafael,
Marciana. Rafael.
Chitano, Elba, son Apaches. Somos Apaches. Secreto, ¿ya? Secreto. No.
Nein, wir haben Vegetarier.
Sí.
¿Cuánto, Marciana, tú, Santa Gracias, cuántos años? Mucho.
Muchos años.
900.
Sí.
900.
Bastantes años.
Ja, du lebst noch hier, viven aquí.
Sí, nosotros aquí.
Muchos años, no sé si se vorstellen. Marciana como reina de Santa Gracia.
abuela, la
Mi
carita
papá
la tengo.
ahí vivía.
Komisch, ich hab gerade am Boden malen wollen, jetzt macht's die.
Cuando murió.
Gibt's doch nicht. Murió.
Sí.
Jetzt wieder
Y
los.
marciana. Por mucho más.
Ja,
Was,
ich
ich
sehe nichts. Ja.
Kennt sie auch.
Ja, das ist das alles.
Warum? Ich will wissen, warum.
Warum?
Die Kinder.
Was heißt denn warum, Henry? Mensch, der Henry, der Doktor hat sie nicht vorbereitet.
Hey, die werden gekillt. Hast du das Zeichen jetzt gesehen? Das hat er immer gesagt. No, finito.
Warum?
Finito. No Apaches aquí. Okay.
Warte mal.
Nosotros aquí. Ja, siehst du, sie hat das auch gemacht. So. Chitanose.
Warum? Ich will wissen.
Genau,
Weil sie
warum?
gekillt werden.
Ja, warum?
Weil sie
Caliente.
Apaches sind.
Caliente, caliente.
Ne, Caliente ist was anderes.
Warm.
Warum heißt das? Warum?
Warum? Warum ist die Banane krumm, Kinder? Hä?
Wo ist denn wahr? Da warum? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué?
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué?
¿Por qué? Forma ¿por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué?
¿Por qué,
Warum?
Apache? ¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué? Warum? Enemies. Enemies. Das sind Feinde, weißt du? Feinde. Du kannst ja nicht so differenziert fragen.
Vom Danken. The whole three areas here, the three states, back around 1880, the Apaches had owned Arizona, state of New Mexico, and Texas, and northern Mexico. When General Crook promised Geronimo and the other Apache chiefs at that time to surrender, to come in and give their arms up and, you know, just live in harmony. At that time that was promised to them. They'll get their land back, spent 2 years in Florida by executive order at that time.
The only treaty with Apaches is a peace treaty that was signed in 1852 with Mangus Colorados. There is no modern treaty that gives the land to these Apaches. They know they're living on land that is not theirs. And this is how that happened. In 1871, the United States government stopped entering into treaties with Indian nations across the country. And so any reservations that were created after 1871 were created by what's called executive order, which means the president signed a piece of paper and said, this is your reservation, okay? That piece of paper is not the law. It's called an executive order only. And any president from Ulysses S. Grant in 1873 until today can take back that land by executive order.
There was a promise made. So which state did? 1886. I believe it was September 6 at that time. With General Miles at that time, you know, relieving General Crook, they agreed to the, you know, surrender. So which they did, they agreed to the surrender. And they came in peacefully, laid down their arms. But eventually, you know, at that time, they wanted Apache lands. The government did. These were all prime Apache land at that time. A lot of minerals, you can find gold, oil, yttrium, you know, one of the rare minerals that's been mined today. It's all over the Southwest at that time. And this was what they were after. But instead of, you know, giving back their land, they spent 27 years in captivity. The first about 9 years, I believe it was in Florida, at hard labor. And after that, you know, they were moved back to Fort Sill. This was the Chiricahua Apache tribe. They were given not section, but plot of land, 160 acres to each family members. It was agreed by the government at that time to be given to the tribe at that time, but half of them, didn't want to stay there, half of the tribe at that time. So half of the tribe moved to Mescalero. That was around, I believe, 1912, I believe it is. So presently, here in Mescalero, we got 3 different tribes of Apaches. First of all, the Mescalero Apache tribe that were very helpful and willing to, accept the Chiricahuas at that time. And then at that time, a few years later, that brought in the Lapan Apache tribe from Big Bend and down from Corpus Christi, that whole area. They call these people Tunsande. They brought them back to Mescalero because of the white settlers expansion at that time, coming into the Southwest, taking the Apache lands by force. And the government agreed that the only way to create, good homestead for, the non-Indians at that time was to remove the Apaches from their homeland, which they did forcefully. And then, at that time, thousand of the Apaches were killed fighting for that land. But it was a bad situation where the reservation system was set up. So here in Mescalero, we have the 3 tribes plus the Mescalero Apache tribe, and then you go over maybe 300-400 miles. There's several other Apache tribes there, but we're basically concentrated on the tribes here in this area.
The Chiricahua people had several bands. One of them is Bidankohi, and the other one is Chihine, Chokane. Chokane, that's where Cochise is from, that particular small band of Chiricahuas. And then Bidankohi, that's where Hu is from. Hu was a warrior, a leader. Some people refer to him as Ho. And then that's where Geronimo is also from. And then Chihinende, that's where Victorio Mangus Colorados, that's where they're all from. But we're all brothers at that time. These people were brothers and sisters. It's just that they were located here and there. And who was located in Mexico by the Sierra Madres. He was a tall man. Some people said that he was over 6'4", and a lot of the Apaches, like Naichi and Naichi, was over 6 feet. So was Cochise, and they were big men, and they all went back and forth from here into the Gila Wilderness, into southeastern Arizona, into the Sierra Madres, and then of course our brothers were the Lapans, and like Harling was saying, they're known as Tunsa, big water people, and they had the land base for them was from the Texas Panhandle all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so when the surrender took place at Skeleton Canyon and other places with General Miles and General Crook, the Chiricahuas were taken as prisoners of war to Pensacola, Florida. St. Marion.
Sorry, Freddy, is this correct? They took away the kids from the families.
While they were in prison at St. Augustine and Pensacola, Florida, the United States government, Army, they came and they grabbed a good many of the children from these families.
Really?
And they took them into Carlisle, Pennsylvania and Hampton.
Away from mother and father?
And some of them never saw their families again.
Really?
They never saw their kids again. So even from what I heard, some of the kids even ran away from those places, and one of them I heard came all the way back to be with the Apache people here in this area. Okay, now after they were finished with being in prison in Florida, they were moved to Mount Vernon, Alabama. And then from Mount Vernon, Alabama, they were moved to Fort Seal, Oklahoma. So, like Harlan said, some of the people came over here and they were accepted by the Mescaleros to live on this reservation. The ones that remain in Oklahoma, they are also our people. They are the same people that we are. It's just that they have become fabricated with like the Kiowas and Comanches, and now it's hard to find any full-blood Chiricahuas anymore. This is the same thing with the people that ran into the Sierra Madres in Mexico. There are Apache people over there, but they have become mixed with the Mexican people. They've become mixed with the other Indian tribes in Mexico. And some of them probably don't even know their history no more. Some of them don't even know that they're Chiricahuas anymore. And because they go by Mexican names. They have Mexican names, and for us, we did not have any type of actually, we didn't have any type of permission to go into that area to go look for them, nor could they come across the Mexican border to come look for us. The government had controls in both places, so we could not keep in contact because of the wars and things like that. So we are now lost. A lot of our people are lost. Now you, throughout the state of New Mexico, state of Arizona, California, state of Chihuahua, Mexico, Texas, you find people say, I am Chiricahua Apache. Maybe some of them, they just want to identify themselves as Apache because Cochise was famous, Geronimo was famous, the Apache was famous. Maybe that's why they want to be Apache. But maybe there are some that do say that they actually do have Apache blood, and maybe they are descendants. But how do we know? We can never tell. The only way is through DNA. But who is willing to do that DNA? And right now, people don't trust one another. How can the Apaches trust anybody after what has happened to them? The government told them, you go to prison in Florida for 2 years, and if you remain peaceful, we'll bring you back to your homelands in southeastern Arizona, western New Mexico, and you can live at peace. They lied to us, and my grandmother said, my great-great-grandmother said, she was in prison for 28 years. And actually, Geronimo, the group, was 27 years. But before Geronimo actually went to prison, there was some of the Chiricahua families that went beforehand. So for them, it was 28 years.
just to that way, you know, you've been suffering, you go through a lot, and you're happy, and because nobody can tell you nothing.
Nobody can tell me I'm a wannabe, yeah?
Yeah.
Nobody can say Henry is a wannabe, yeah? I'm a real one, yeah?
Yeah.
And that's what I had to...
In other words, you could say, I know my life, so fuck you. Yeah.
This one you mean, yeah?
Yes.
American best.
Mein Vater, Mike Villarena. Den Namen hat er während seiner Einberufung zum Militärdienst bekommen. Ein Offizier hat ihm diesen Namen verliehen. Seinen echten Namen hat er vergessen. Der war ungefähr so: Miguel Alfaro Díaz de la Cruz Martínez Doria Tovar. Das war dem Offizier nicht zuzumuten. Indianersein erlebte er als leiden müssen, ohne zu wissen, warum. Eingesperrt sein, wie ein Tier zu leben, verachtet zu werden, ohne zu wissen, warum. You are nobody.
Something happened in the Indian life, you know, because not all the people feels like Indian people feel. You know, like
with the soul.
Something. They feel something that they think that if you are an Indian, you get something from your relatives,
from the old ones.
And that's what I heard from some people that stuff. They get messages or something like that.
Maybe through genetics also. They get messages from the old ones to the soul. Yeah? That maybe that happens to me. Yeah?
If I know that I've seen some people, they don't know what to do, and like they worry or something, and they're thinking about their next of kin. And I think it's what's happening to me. Was you know, I feel better when it gets the people that I do for, it makes me feel good. You know, suddenly you get your feel better. Like if a relative of mine is in problem or something happened, then I suffer it. And when I help them, I feel better. That's thing that
somehow there's a connection. The connection not depends on space. It's more feeling connections also.
Yeah.
And that's the same with me and Taima. I feel her suffering. And it's hard, yeah? I had hard times.
Mein Vater wurde noch in einem Indianerzelt geboren und durchlief die alten Apachen-Rituale. So verkörpert er und steht für einer der letzten alten Apachen. Vielleicht waren es diese Rituale, die uns zusammenführten. Tausende Jahre alte Gene wirken in ihm, die ihn auch in entsprechende Schwierigkeiten brachten. I wanna be a free man, Henry.
The only thing I know about Geronimo is because somebody told me about my grandmother in Geronimo. Some guy or man, whatever, that he bought a store, a big store, and he knew everything, and he told me about it. He told me about Rafa was my father. He was Geronimo's. Well, maybe it was his son or something, but he told me about when they were in Sonora and everything. And Geronimo went back to Arizona and something happened, and then she joined Pancho Villa. That's what happened.
Okay.
But then Rafa was born, so that's why this man said that Rafa was Geronimo's son. And I got to, I went about 2 or 3 times to Santa Gracia. The last time, they told me not to go back no more, because I was going to get killed. So I didn't go back no more.
Durch mein Erscheinen treffen 2 Kontinente, 2 Lebensformen aufeinander. Das war die Grundlage für Missverständnisse, verschiedene Erwartungen, unterschiedliche Vorstellungen. Der Konflikt war unausweichlich. Indianersein war für ihn das schlimmste aller Übel. Daher sein gut behütetes Geheimnis. Nur als Mexikaner lässt er sich leben, und so verdrängte er seine Herkunft, bis sein Sohn auftauchte. Für seinen Sohn war Indianersein etwas Besonderes, auf das man stolz sein konnte. Wunsch und Wirklichkeit treffen aufeinander. Ich hatte mit großen Widerständen zu kämpfen, doch langsam Jahr für Jahr konnte er mehr zulassen, wer er wirklich war. Unsere Auseinandersetzungen führten dann bei unserer letzten Begegnung zu einem inneren Bekenntnis. Yes, we are Indians, Henry. Doch lassen wir ihn selbst sprechen.
Look at the Kikapus over here too, on the reservation. It's no life. And yeah, okay, I'm an Indian, but I think not the only one that feel that way, because I do like Indian life. It's hard for me to understand why I suffer, but I understand the Indians suffer a lot, and it's on my body, and I know Indians suffer no matter what, and I do suffer. Sometimes I suffer and think about it, but what helps me is that I'm an Indian, and I know Indians suffer, and that's what's helped me be what I am, because otherwise I was going to try to kill myself.
I want to get there so fast. A lot of people don't really know much about the Geronimo, of what he is, and he has a natural ability of a most powerful person that I think that he had, and then that was just by prayers, by what he has done of his own prayer. I think he had a lot of power to be there, here today, and then tomorrow he'll probably be down south somewhere. So he had that way of going above things, and so that's kind of like, for me, is how did we blend in from the time when Geronimo was surrendering. There was two of the ladies, and that he sent out to the Big Mountain area, which we call the Big Mountain now on the Navajo reservation, and which is on the northern side of the Navajo reservation. So from where he sent them, he told them actually how many days it's going to take you to get to where you're going to be, and what the name of a person was. And that's, you got to meet with that people and they will accept you. And so he already knew the people already out here. And then that's how the story of my side of the Chisha clan comes from him to let the bloodline continue on to where I am surrendering to a government on my own free will to better for the people. And at the same time, he didn't trust the government, and said that whatever they're trying to do is they're just trying to do away with us, the whole clan-wise. But all these ladies that were going, which were the nieces of the Geronimo, that's the only way that's why I'm a Chisha, because it's always a lady, the clan-wise, that's usually carry on that clan. So that's where I blend in from the Geronimo's descent of where we come from, and a lot of times we just kind of keep it to ourselves, and because of you just don't have people, when you say Chisha the Navajo, they will kind of step back once or twice, and it's just no trust in with even what some of the people that adopted into the Navajo. And so that's kind of like a real powerful clan, and then at the same time, in a split second, you can turn evil. And that's kind of like the word Chisha means in our way of how so we kind of been so many years of a generation that we were kind of down low, but now with the new group of generation coming up, they all wanted to know where we're coming from. And so that's kind of where we had to tell the deep of where we're really coming from.
The real roots.
Yeah, the real roots of where we really identify where we come from to here and where we're heading.
They are very busy. We had two ceremonies, puberty rites. Yeah. We filmed it. We got a permission to film. We're making interviews with Harlan, Geronimo, my cousin, and Ortega, and all this Sherman Plain, and all these people. Yellow powder.
Taste it. It's a corn pollen. Put that on top of your head.
Oh.
And then you pray. You take another dip and then spread it for your happiness of being on earth,
So, okay, thank you.
My name's Manuel Hoingwa and I'm from the Hopi Nation. This Hopi Nation is located in northern Arizona. I want to talk about this Hopi prophecy. Our elders, when I was a young boy, like maybe I was about 12, 13, 14 years old, when they would talk about these prophecies at my grandpa's house, you know. This way I learned, I picked some of this stuff that they talk about. So now I'm doing this work, you know, my spiritual journey that I started in 1990. I want to explain this prophecy on this rock writing that I took picture of down at it's just east of Oloraibi. Right here, this person standing here is a one-hearted person. It has one line, you know, that means it's a one-hearted God that lives here. Before the world ended down below, they got corrupted in there, down below. Everybody went, you know, got out of balance, and people don't want to follow the road path like the Great Spirit down there to follow. They, instead of following those teachings, they decide to become materialistic down there. they live a long time down there, down below somewhere, and they got corrupted, and the leaders can't control the people, just like today. All over this nation, across the sea, there's people are corrupted. Here in the United States, our people don't want to follow the path of the Great Spirit. This is the real path, that is a spiritual path that He gave us, that to follow. But you know, before they came over, they heard someone walking up on this land over here. This land this square one represents the land, and they heard someone walking up on this land, you know, and then these leaders, they wanted to go find a new place, but they don't know where to go. But they heard someone walking up on this land up on, I guess, this United States they call now, and they hired, or not hired, but they created a bird to find out who's walking up here on this land. They can hear the footsteps pounding on the ground, and they've been hearing this, and they wanted to come up here, but they don't know how to come up here. So these spiritual people, they created 3 birds. I mean, not at the same time. They created a hawk, and they sent him up here, but the first creation didn't make it up. Then they create another one, a swallow. He too didn't make it up. So then the third one they create, he's the one that made through up here to this land. And he came out to search for someone, that whoever was walking here. So when he went looking for the someone over here, then he found the Great Spirit, and then he asked, you know, he was sent, or told the Great Spirit that he was sent over here if the people can come and live with him. And he didn't answer directly. He said that they're welcome to come over here if they're willing to live like I do. I have nothing. All I have is corn and other stuff that, you know, he lived, you know, to live. Yeah. And then he said it's okay, they can come. So the bird got the message. So he came back down to the underworld before it was really destroyed, you know. So they don't know how to get up here. So they planted a tree, a pine tree. It grew. They smoke and prayed, you know, make prayer feathers or something like that. They prayed, and the pine tree grew, but it didn't make it up to this land. It won't come through. And then, so they planted another one. It's close to what blue spurs, I think they call this. Another, it's almost like a pine tree. So they plant that one too, and sing, and then smoke. It grew and grew, but that too didn't make it. Then the third one they planted was a reed. So the root grew. The reed grew and then pinched a hole to this land. Then they came to this new world, and then the first time they met this Great Spirit is down at the Grand Canyon. Our forefathers came to this land. That's where there's all different tribes came out from here, and he gave them each tribe. He gave them languages to speak, you know, and then he gave them the instructions to follow these teachings that he gave them to take care of this land. So he told them he gave them these teachings, and offered them corn, all different colors, 4 different colors. Some are long, some are medium, to shortest one. They said that some are greedy people. They wanted the longest ones, So the first people, I don't know which group, but they pick the longest one, and another person takes next, longest, and then to medium, and then to short.
Too short, yeah.
And the people that picked the shortest one, that they said, I guess the Great Spirit told them they're the humblest people. So there, he said that he's going to give that to stone tablet to them, with the spider woman was there too with them. So they each one received a name. Then Hopi, he called the people Hopi. That's our people now. That's called Hopi. It means peaceful people, But so he gave them this stone tablet over there, and then told them that whoever finds the Great Spirit will be the leaders of this world. And then so he told them to, migrate to these 4 corners of this land and put their markings on the rocks, like this right here, and different kinds, to put their clan symbols, or because they were given these clans too. Along the way, some people have no clan, and then when they see something, or a snake or a bear, then they said that they're going to be a bear clan or a snake clan or different kinds. That's what they were saying. And then as they traveled, they put their markings on the wall that they had to claim this land before the white man came to this land, that someday somebody's going to claim this land. So that's why they put all these signs on the walls, So they went around these 4 corners of this land and put their markings, and then the Hopi is the one that found them here in Old Oraibi. That's where they asked him if he, when they first met him, they asked him if he could be their leader. This God, the great, they call him Masa. He knew that they still have evil intentions, so he said he don't want to be a leader. You choose your leader. Whoever brought you here will be the leader of the rest, whoever come behind you. So he refused to be a leader, because if he was a leader and then they make mistakes, and they would just blame him, so he don't want to be a leader. Let them choose their own leader. So, but he knew that someday people will change. That's why, just like what happened down below. So they came through the reed to this new land, and then he knew that they would become materialistic again, do a lot of evil things too. So they were all at one at the beginning of time. So they started their future here, to live for a long time. But like I said, he knew that they're going to change, they're going to become evil again and do things that they're not supposed to. So the white man was coming, and he knew that the Hopi people will become materialistic. This line is the materialistic path right here. And this down below is a spiritual path, spiritual road. If they go too far in materialistic conveniences, the teachings that I received from my ancestors when they were here, they talk about that materialistic world is not going to last. If we become materialistic, it only comes so far and ends right here. When they're getting too far in this materialistic world, somebody will try to stop them. You notice this is one line. He's one-hearted like him. One-hearted person will try to stop them to continue to put in this villages. We have 12 villages, maybe 11 or 12 villages. But out of the 12 villages, there's 4 villages are rooted rooted the whole universe to keep this world in balance. So if one village would put this into that village, that's it's a spiritual village. If they put modern convenience in the village, that means they fall. They don't have any power to keep this world in balance. Then if another village put that in their spiritual village, then they fall too. Their powers will not be strong. And then another, and they said that when they split up in Oloraibi and they were evicted from Oloraibi to go to Hotvela, they don't know where they were going, but they settled in Hotvela because there's water there. And they settled in Hotvela because of the pressure that was coming from the U.S. government.
To Oloraibi?
In Oloraibi, they changed some of the people's life over there. They don't want to follow the spiritual path, and some people still wants to carry on the spiritual life, path, teachings that they received from their forefathers, their ancestors. Now our ancestors, the late ancestors, they pass on, and they told this story to us younger ones, but some younger ones won't listen to them, and they thought this Hotvela would be strong. So Hotvela was strong for some time till up to like 1990. Ever since that, when they had a split in Oloraibi, they did start their ceremonials, their teaching, their priesthood. They start again. Then the Kachina ceremonials, because they still want to live by the tradition, what that was given to them by the Great Spirit. So they continue that. But after the split, the government the very next day, they start to pull out young children to go to school. Then they sent them far away to go to school, different places.
What time was it, 1900?
Well, it was 1906, and right the next morning, 1906, they gathered the young children that are at school age. They grabbed them, and the elders or their fathers, they refused to send their children to school. Then the government put the elders, the fathers, in prison.
Really?
Just to take the young children to school. And some of them spent 4 years, 7 years far away to learn. They were when they came back home after 7 years, they talking about they weren't allowed to talk Hopi, only in English. They were really mistreated. One Hopi word, they say they would get punished. All these things happen to the young children, and they become our ancestors. And some of them came back, but then they still follow this road. Some of them, they got educated. They got educated. They're smart. Our ancestors got smart because they were forced to learn this, and then they started writing the prophecies on paper. Long time it was just passed on by word of mouth. These prophecies. Now they put this in paper. Hotvela people Yeah, to have records on it. So it was good that they did that too. That now there's all of these papers that's called Apache on internet. Anybody can just log into that and get those papers out. What the Hotwala village went through, how they were mistreated by the U.S. government. So that's what happens. These right here, on here, right here, these two lines, 3 people standing here, they don't have any hats on there.
Oh yeah.
This represents that these people are two-hearted people. Evil people will become materialistic. And this person standing here, when he wakes up, he's going to turn against evil to try to bring them back to the spiritual path. But the Great Spirit told them that we will have 3 world wars, so this was already written down on here. This one represents the First World War and then the Second World War. Then if these people don't listen to this one-hearted person and continue to become materialistic, run over him and fulfill the modern things in these 4 villages, if they do complete all the 4, then this zigzag line is like lightning. When they get too far in materialistic life, then this will lead to Third World War, which it started when they, in the 90s, mid-90s, they complete the 4 villages. Now we're out of balance now. Everywhere, what happens in Hopi affects the whole world. That's why our ancestors don't want modern conveniences in these 4 villages. That will be in trouble. Nobody can correct this because these 4 important villages has already put in this these villages, all these modern conveniences. Old Arabia was supposed to be the last one. When they were evicted, they took their shrines out from the ground, the earth, mother village over there in Old Arabia. Then they buried over there to hold on to this world with that shrines. By putting in all these modern conveniences in the village, they're cutting the spiritual path to all directions, 6 directions, 4 directions, and up and down. That we have no more roots to this world to keep this in balance. So that's why our people were really strong. They said that Hobela was the last stronghold. So up to around the 90s, they completed this water line in Hobela. So this represents this. Some people wonder why they don't have hats. So if we're to have a judgment, the Third World War that will spread over here, they said we have a brother that went across the waters that is looking at the Hopis. You know, if we fail or evil, if we turn, become materialistic like the evil God, then when our brother hears about it, he's gonna come. And he's going to purify land and life. That's when evil will be beheaded. Like right here. They will cut the evil's head so they will not speak no more. And this here is the Third World War. Then after the judgment, there's going to be plenty of food. And this is the Father to him. Then he will give the land to this person that has one heart, then he will lead the people again. Then he will move on to the higher place. And this cross here, they say that somebody will come to this land and bring cross to this land, to the where the red man first settled. The first people not just the Hopi people, all red men. Some people will join this. Our ancestors say not to join anybody that brings the cross to us because he already gave them the instructions to follow. So that's why the Christians came around. They tried to Christianize the Hopi people. He already did to other nations, other different nations, the red people. But the Hopi really refused because they say if we should join this, if everybody become Christianized in Hopi, the world will turn over, that the water will swallow us. So that's why he don't want the Hopi people to join this. Only evil will join them. So if we make it through here to here, whoever survived this, if we have a judgment, we will make it through. Whoever makes it through, then there's plenty of food and other things that we will share together after judgment. Then this circle represents everlasting life, like the spiritual path. There's no end to this circle. That represents the everlasting life in this world when we start a new beginning.
And what is this?
Well, this person is trying to bring them to the spiritual path. If they don't listen to him, if they don't listen to this guy, third world already started in another country, that will not stop. It will just be going on, and they will come over here. It's just like Armageddon. We're going to have this in this country. So that war that started over there, it's not going to stop. It's just going to keep on building and building. That's why they said they're going to come in. Even the people that here, they're going to make prayer feathers. First, they're going to use a small prayer feather and put it at the edge of the mesa, but they're really putting it at the edge of this land by the water ocean to block the world to come, the war to come over across. But if they're going to keep trying to come over here to this land, because the United States, they don't respect the Native people's belief. They just run over them and dictate to them, telling the Native people how to live. The old ways are nothing, it don't mean nothing. The new ways are better than the old ways. That's how he pulled many Native people, with money and power. So that's why I'm saying that no Native people should go to war because we're struggling because of the federal government. They took over the land. He created all of these councils to represent their people, like in all, it's like that all red nations, the United States create all of these councils, to represent their people. But our ancestors, when they were here, they're the ones that are the leaders. We should listen to them because they have power to keep this world in balance. But the council have no power to keep this world in balance, because they don't make prayer for this down at the council. All they want is money to make us happy, to work for the government, federal government.
Money and to be important, yeah?
Yeah, it's really important to them. So that's why they want to follow this modern laws.
Material bad.
There's a lot of laws that they create in the White House every day. But we have laws that was given to us by the Great Spirit, and it's never been changed. The Great Spirit never changed them. It's the people that walked away from His arms, The Great Spirit, He was holding us with, like this, in His loving arm. but people are walking off the spiritual path, leaving him, leaving the Great Spirit and following evil God. They said evil God is a materialistic person. So they joined the evil materialistic God. That's why this person right here, one-hearted, is turning against them. But this was prophesied at the beginning of time when they came out from Grand Canyon.
Someday your journey is over. You can see the end of the line. You fly in the space of nowhere. May you find your way to the light. May you find your way to the light. As someone who came back, keep on walking, immersed in the cycle of life. Look for joy